Hey, it's Edward, and today I'm going to talk to you about something I used to struggle with a lot more, but I've changed a lot of things in my routine to help with, but that's acne and zits in general, and probably more importantly, I have a little trick that I do to help me quickly get rid of the results of zits, the zit themselves, and ideally the bump that tends to hang around for a couple days. I was trying to get to the core of the problem of my acne. And one of the problems that I realized I was having was stress in general. At this point, I was starting to travel a lot for work. I did not have a lot of money. Even when things went well, it takes a while for models to get paid. Sometimes even up to like 6 months, and that's totally normal in some cases. But because I didn't have any money, and because I was stressed out about a bunch of other things, you know, like food, and I wasn't kind of, I don't know, handling the stress well, it started causing me to break out. Stress is one of the biggest factors in breaking out. It's probably also a huge factor in why most people break out right before a big event. For me, I started looking for solutions for stress. The first one was trying to change the way that I looked at the things going on around me. I think that's pretty obvious to most people, but that one's pretty hard. The other thing that I started changing because of stress was I started doing some research. And I found out about something called ashwagandha root. It really is good for stress. It'll kind of keep you calm and relaxed throughout the day. I'll put a link in the bio to where I get it. I just go to my local GNC and pick it up. A lot of places have it, a lot of different brands make it. I found that it takes a couple days for ashwagandha to kind of start working for some people. Some it'll take like 2, some it can take as many as 7. It's different for everybody, and how much it'll help you, that's different for everybody too. But I have found that to not only help me, but a couple of the models that I help. The next thing that I do is obviously identifying the zit. So I've got one here, as small as it is still a zit. It's definitely there, it's noticeable. I've been kind of waiting for a chance to make this video, but I'm obviously not trying to cause zits, and luckily I've had pretty good skin lately. To give you an example of identifying which zits are ready to pop, I also have like something going on here. I can feel it. I'm sure if I were to squeeze it, it would make it red, but you can feel it on your skin. However, there is no white bump. With that being said, it's not ready to pop. However, this one here, this one has that little white head. It's hard to see, but it's there. Trust me, I can see it when I look in a mirror. And like most zits, it's not about how noticeable it is, it's how noticeable you think it is. This is really just meant to like try and minimize it. It's gonna be different for everybody. And please keep in mind, this is just what I do for my skin. I'm not a doctor, I'm not an esthetician, I'm not anything like that. I'm just a fashion model. And I've drawn a lot of my knowledge from just asking different questions to different people and kind of seeing what works best for me and trying to put them all together into one routine that'll work for me. So hopefully you guys enjoy this. So the first thing I do is obviously identify the zit. If I can, just around the outside edges and really soft. I'm not gonna pop it, I don't wanna pop it. Just make sure I'm getting everything going towards the middle of that zit. Then, the next part, I take a hot needle, sterilize it, but I also heat it up until the metal actually gets really hot. So I'm gonna use this just to create the tiniest hole possible. So unlike exploding it, where people pop it with their finger, sterilize it, get it nice and hot, so that way I can just tap the skin, and you really just wanna tap the skin. The next step is I use this little hook tool to actually go and extract it. So we got this nice little chunk out. That's actually the pus. That's the stuff you want to come out. You press down, and as you get towards the middle of the hole, you kind of pull up with it, and it'll kind of hopefully pull everything out. So now, on to the next step. The next thing you want to do after you get everything out is I use tea tree oil and put it on right away. I apply a little pressure. It's just regular tea tree oil, whatever you're going to use. It's great for disinfecting it, cleaning it out, but it's an all-natural way to do it. That's what I tend to use for zit. Most of the time you get a bump just because the actual bleeding that's going on after. It's not that you didn't get everything out, it just starts bleeding a little bit, and that builds a little bump there of blood. So I give it a little pressure when I'm putting on the tea tree oil. The next thing that I do to make sure that I don't have a bump is I ice it. So when I ice it, I'm just making sure I'm holding it on the actual zit itself, retaining some pressure throughout the entire process. This stops the blood from swelling up and creating that little bump. This is usually the little bump that's left around after you pop a zit. That's usually why. You can stop the bump from happening just by icing it, just by stopping it from bleeding and creating that bump. Keeping pressure on it should stop the swelling, just like it would if you were to hurt any other joint. So once I finish icing it, I really just make sure it's pretty cold to the touch. I only did that for a couple minutes. Once you do that, I like to reapply the tea tree oil, make sure I'm really keeping it clean. So I'll go back with that. Just do one more. I flip the bottle real quick, put it on my finger, go back over it. Definitely can't feel my cheek right now. So the next thing I like to do, and this is really just for redness, but I like to spray rose water on it. If you've watched some of my other videos, this is part of what I use for my lotion, but this is actually good for evening out and even getting rid of redness. Feels good on your face too. I would do this also in New York during Fashion Week when I would have to walk into a casting and it was super cold and your face would get all red. I would actually use this just to spray it on right before I walk in, and it would take away a lot of the redness, honestly. It was pretty useful. All right, so it's been a couple minutes and now most of the redness is gone. The last thing that I do, and this is actually kind of recent that I even discovered this one, I now use just regular aloe vera gel. I like the fact that this one gets kind of like little clumps to it. I like to take one of these little clumps and put it right on top because I found out that aloe is really good for swelling and inflammation. So it's kind of like a little bubble that I put on top of it. So this little bubble I'll leave on there until it dries up, and there will be these little chunks left from this, and I kind of just let that soak in, or I rub it back in. But this seems to get rid of most of the swelling. So I'll check back in with you guys in a little bit and we can see how it looks. You can already see it's really like barely even there. It's kind of just becomes a really small dot. I won't even really get a bump. There's actually still some aloe on there. I'm just kind of letting it soak in. I think this is the point where you have a choice based off of what you have coming up next, whether you have an event now or whether you are just kind of hanging around at home all day. The first thing I would suggest if you're sitting around at home though is using some sort of activated charcoal peel-off mask. Something to really make sure you're extracting everything out of that zit that might be left over from our little process there. Since I'm the face of Cremo, I do have all of their products available to me, and luckily they make a peel-off mask. So that would be the first thing I suggest if you're sitting at home. Otherwise, if you're about to go out to an event and get ready, a paper mask, some sort of moisturizing paper mask, ideally activated charcoal. Luckily, Cremo makes the perfect one. Obviously, I favor them. What I like about this is for right before you're going out to an event, the activated charcoal will still pull everything that's left in that pore out, but this also has a moisturizing factor that really gives your skin a nice glow. So I'm gonna do that now, and I'll check back in with you guys before we go. See you soon. All right, so I like to take this after, use some of the extra juice or whatever it is that's on it, and rub it in. I heard your neck starts to be one of the first places that shows aging, so I always like to get it in there. Try not to get it in my eyes, I try to just get it around it. No one likes bags. But yeah, now I've got a nice little glow to my skin. Nice part about these, they sell for $3 for an individual one at Target. I just looked it up just to make sure. So it's not that expensive. Hopefully that helps. As you can see, like, zit is like non-existent now. There's no bump, nothing. So I'm ready to go to an event if I need to. I don't really have anything to go to today, but I'm ready if I need it to be. If you guys have any questions, please drop a comment down below. Hopefully you guys like some of my tips, and more importantly, hopefully they work for you. So if they do, don't forget, subscribe. It's somewhere down there. I've got plenty more coming out. I also do some entertaining things once in a while. I actually do a lot of traveling with Cremo. You can check out some of the stops from the Cremo road trip. I have some of that up on my YouTube as well. But hopefully you guys are enjoying the videos, and more importantly, I hope these tips work for you. If you have any questions, let me know. Talk to you guys soon. Bye.